So, we are staring down the barrel of a massive technological shift. One that's forcing us to, well, basically rebuild the very foundations of our digital security. This is our explainer on how we can actually execute the quantum migration.
Let me start with a question, and it's one that might keep you up at night. Is the data you think is securely locked away right now actually already compromised? Is it sitting in some adversary's hands just waiting to be cracked open?
And that question leads us directly to a threat that's happening as we speak. It's called store now, decrypt later. And let me be clear, this is not a future problem. Right now, adversaries are hoovering up huge amounts of encrypted data. They're betting that in a few years, a quantum computer will make today's encryption totally useless.
Yeah, this is not some far-off sci-fi movie plot. I mean, think about it. You've got data that needs to stay secret for decades, right? Things like government intelligence, a company's intellectual property, your personal financial records. For that kind of information, a data time bomb is already ticking.
The real weak spot is the data you're encrypting at this very moment. Any information that has a long shelf life is an absolute goldmine for these harvesting attacks. See, the collection happens today, the decryption happens later.
So, the big question is, how do we defend against this? Well, the good news is, there's a really clear and powerful strategy that security experts are rallying around. The best way to think about it is like putting two completely different locks on your most important door.
And that two-lock solution? Well, it has a name. It's called the hybrid approach. This is the central recommendation for making our digital world safe from quantum computers. But what does that actually mean?
The hybrid approach is a surprisingly simple but incredibly powerful idea. You don't just throw out your old algorithm and switch to a new post-quantum one. No, instead you use both of them at the same time. You use your trusted traditional algorithm and a new post-quantum one together. That way, an attacker has to break both locks to get inside. But, and this is a really important but, not all hybrid methods are the same. The one we want, the recommended approach, is hybrid and. It forces the use of both algorithms. The risky one is hybrid or, which lets you choose, and that choice creates a massive, dangerous backdoor.
And this is exactly why hybrid OR is so dangerous. An attacker can just knock on the server's door and say, hey, sorry, I don't speak that newfangled post-quantum language, and that forces the server to fall back to the old, vulnerable method. It's a classic move called a downgrade attack, and it makes your shiny new quantum defenses completely worthless.
Okay, so we've got our strategy, the hybrid and approach. Great, but where do we even begin? I mean, your digital world is huge. You can't just fix everything all at once. You absolutely need a priority list.
You've got to be strategic about this. Not every single piece of cryptography in your system is facing the same immediate threat. The whole game is about tackling the most urgent vulnerabilities first. So here it is. Your number one priority has to be migrating asymmetric cryptography. That's the math we use for things like setting up a secure connection or verifying a digital signature. Now, it's built on math problems that are incredibly hard for today's computers, but are the exact kind of problems that future quantum computers will be able to solve, maybe even easily. On the other hand, symmetric crypto, think AES, the stuff that does the heavy lifting of encrypting the actual data, that's much more resilient. So the focus has to be on that first, much more vulnerable step. All right, so we've covered the what and the why. Now let's get into the how. How does all this theory actually apply to the digital tools we're all using every single day? Well, for the absolute workhorses of the internet, things like TLS that secures your web browsing, IPsec that runs our VPNs, and SSH for secure administration, the path forward is pretty clear. Implement that hybrid and approach. This is where the real work of migration needs to happen. Now, it's also worth pointing out that we don't have all the answers just yet. The road isn't fully paved for every single piece of tech out there. For things like secure email, for example, the standards are still being worked out. It's a moving target, you know? And that makes our next topic even more critical. And that brings us to our final, and honestly, maybe the most important concept of all. This whole quantum migration thing is a huge project. So how do we make sure that the next time a major cryptographic threat comes along, we're not starting from square one all over again? Look, the quantum threat is today's problem, for sure, but security is never done. The real question, the bigger question, is how you build a system that's resilient to future threats, whatever they turn out to be. The answer to that is a concept called cryptographic agility. And the best way to think about it is this. Are you building your security with concrete, or are you building it with Legos?
A concrete structure, yeah, it's strong, but it's totally rigid and impossible to change. A Lego structure is also strong, but you can easily swap out pieces whenever you need to. That is agility.
So how do you actually get agile? Well, it really comes down to 3 key areas. First, technology. You can't protect what you don't know you have, so a complete inventory is step 1. Second, process. Agility has to be baked into how you buy software and manage changes, not just bolted on as an afterthought. And third, policy. You have to make agility a non-negotiable requirement for any new systems or vendors you bring into your world.
And this is why it's called a no-regret move. It's brilliant, really. Because even if a powerful quantum computer was still decades away, building cryptographic agility makes your organization more secure and more responsive right now. You can react way faster to any new vulnerability, whether it's quantum-related or not.
So we end right where we begin, with a question for you. The threat of data being harvested right now for future decryption means you have to act today. But building cryptographic agility, that's about being ready for whatever comes next. So the question is your security just built for today, or is it truly ready for tomorrow?